Every morning, the countdown begins for the markets with meticulous research and analysis designed to help you capitalize on the trading day. Beaming live from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal studio.
Good morning, hello and welcome to Bazaar Morning Call. We are coming to you live as always from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal studios. I'm Surabhi Upadhyay, with me Nigel D'Souza, and we have Rima again with us. And it's a big day, guys, because we've got that very important CNBC interview with the US president.
Yes.
We have the RBI policy and of course some important earnings as well. So packed.
Pat, I think the next 36 hours are going to be the decider, right? Markets have been consolidating over the last couple of days. It's looking for a trigger to break out on either side. And I think, today, RBI monetary policy, 6th August, 7th August, tariffs come into effect. It's all going to happen now.
Well, that's right. And Trump's threats continue, right, with regard to the tariffs. So we'll see how that goes. But all eyes on the RBI. Can they do something more to pep up the economy? That's got a little bit softer. So I think that's going to be important. Besides the action, I think the commentary from the RBI governor is something that we'll be looking at very, very closely.
Absolutely. And there you go. You have the countdown on the board. 2 hours to go till that policy announcement comes through. So before that, let's take a look at the cues. And obviously, the biggest cue came in, like I'm saying, from that interview that CNBC did with the US President Donald Trump. And, well, there are not too many positives for India, because to start with, he has reiterated that he wants to ratchet up tariffs on India. And he says the tariffs will go substantially higher over the next 24 hours. He also had statements to make on pharmaceuticals. Again, not very positive for India. Here are the US president.
With India, what people don't like to say about India, they're the highest tariff nation. They have the highest tariff of anybody. We do very, very little business with India because their tariffs are so high. So India has not been a good trading partner because they do a lot of business with us, but we don't do business with them. So we settled on 25%, but I think I'm going to raise that very substantially over the next 24 hours because they're buying Russian oil, they're fueling the war machine, and if they're going to do that, then I'm not going to be happy. But India went from the highest tariffs ever. They will give us 0 tariffs, and they're going to let us go in. But that's not good enough because of what they're doing with oil.
Okay, and in fact, in over the course of the night, there was a question put to him on US's own purchases of minerals, uranium, etc., from Russia, to which he said, "I'm not sure. I'll look into it." So this is continuing. The back and forth goes on. So that's on the tariff itself, which he's saying he will raise substantially in the next 24 hours. And on pharma. What is negative is that he's again reiterated that pharma tariffs, all pharma imports coming into the US, tariffs there will go up. Again, he says in a big way. He's saying we'll start small, eventually go to 150%, and then by the end of the next year and a half, the tariff is going to settle at 250%. Now, how much do you want to read into this? Is it just rhetoric? Is it just negotiation? Is it just, pushing the companies to make more in the US? We'll find out, but that's what he has said. That's on, of course, the president's speak. Now let's come to Wall Street. And it was a quiet day, actually, for the street yesterday. Not too many cues. It was mostly tracking some earnings. And we had largely a down session once again. The Nasdaq, of course, leading the losses, down about 0.7% on the Nasdaq. We had actually some important and interesting numbers come after market hours as well. And the stocks played out quite sharply over there. AMD, for instance, down 5%. Snap shares down 15% because the earnings there have missed estimates. And even today, more than economic data, it's going to be earnings-driven. Companies like McDonald's, etc., reporting, for Wall Street today. Yields, little change. Not much is moving. Still about 4.2% on the US 10-year yield. So we didn't have much of a movement. The market was tracking services data in the US. The ISM non-manufacturing PMI came in for July. It's declined from the June levels. It slipped to about 50.1 versus 50.8 in June. So that was a bit of a negative. The dollar continues to track the US president's commentary on who is coming in next to replace Jerome Powell. And in that same interview, he was asked that question. And what he's saying is he's first talking about, the Fed governor who's just, sort of moved out, or the term has ended, Adriana Kugler. And he's saying that he'll be sending a nomination very, very soon, and also putting out a nominee for the Fed chair himself. And he said that Scott Bessent's name is out. He said Besant doesn't want to, be Fed chair. He wants to continue being Treasury Secretary. So that's ruled out. But he'll be declaring his list of nominees for the Fed chief very, very shortly. So that's something that the bond markets and the dollar markets were looking out for. On oil, by the way, despite all of this rhetoric that continues on stopping India from buying Russian oil, the market's not reading anything into it. If anything, actually, crude fell last night. Crude's down another percent and a half, which is good news for us. Look at that. It's about below 68 this morning as well. So the oil market is not perturbed. OPEC's increase in output is the deciding and the driving factor for the market, at least right now. Nifty has been sluggish and it's been tired. And yesterday we could not build on the gains that we saw on Monday. We gave back about a little less than half of those gains. So that's pretty much what the action was like yesterday. The market's lacking leadership. It's not coming in from IT. It's not coming from even consumer stocks. They were seeing some weakness yesterday. And it hasn't come from banks. The bank Nifty is down about 3% 2.8, 2.9% in the last 1 month. It's down about 1.5% in the last 5 days. Large banks like ICICI Bank and HDFC Bank have been showing nervousness ahead of the RBI policy. Now, the view is very split. The street is absolutely split. There are lots of commentators who are expecting a 25 basis points rate cut today. So it's a split verdict. But let's see what the RBI finally delivers and if it can, trigger a positive surprise on banks, which will then provide some leadership to the market itself. Rima.
Well, Asia's mixed this morning. So you've got Taiwan down close to about 0.8%. You've got a red tick coming in the Korean markets. But China and Hang Seng, at least for now, are on the flatter side. Hang Seng is now mildly lower, 0.2%. But, yesterday, Trump also said that he's getting very close to a deal with China to extend the trade truce, which ends on the 12th of August. So I think there is a bit of a relief coming through on that front. So Hang Seng in China could be on the other side. But, as Surbhi was pointing out, we've got two market-critical events coming out, and that could set the tone going forward. One is the RBI monetary policy. Second is, tariffs on India come into effect from 7th of August. Are we going to see substantially higher number compared to that? Because Trump has been raising the rhetoric on India's trade. For our own markets, we've been consolidating. In fact, it's been a very tight range over the last couple of days. Monday's trading range, high and low, was well within Friday's range. And even yesterday's trading session, as you can see, was within the high and low of the previous session. But broadly, you would say that 24,535 is the recent swing low. That remains as a support level, or 25,500 for the sake of simplicity. In terms of flows, the DII's net bought 3,840 crore. The FI's net sold 2,200 crore. But remember, numbers are skewed on account of the Paytm block. What to watch in terms of stock radars? We'll get to the earnings reaction. But today, you've got three nifty companies reporting numbers: Hero MotoCorp, Bajaj Auto, and Trend. And then you've got big boy NSDL listing. Remember, it's a very strong subscription of 41 times. So there is a strong listing buzz coming through for NSDL. So I'll be watching that very closely. Nigel.
Well, we used to get into big events. Going into big events, normally the positioning was bullish. Now, the positioning is cautious. Whether you go into a global event, whether you go into a domestic event as well. And yesterday was no different. And in fact, in the last few days, that range has been getting narrower. So you just pull up the chart last few days, from around 300 points between the high as well as the low. That was down to around 140 points. Selling the Nifty is getting into that narrow range. But today I'm expecting a big move either which direction. Now moving to what happened yesterday. Yes, the Nifty ended lower. The Nifty Bank as well ended low. But it appeared on the Nifty Bank itself, there is some build-up on the short side. So the street is sensing something out there. If the worst case doesn't play out, and that's the index to track. Let's get into further detail then. What did the FIs do? They added shorts, no surprises out there. 12,000 short contracts is what they added. It takes their short position to the highest we have seen since March 2023 at around 92%. Even in absolute terms, they're holding around that 1.65 lakh contracts on the short side in terms of the FI short positioning. But, they shorted index futures, and within that, there is the breakup. And, if you look at it, that's clearly a higher amount of shorts that they've added on the Nifty Bank. So the Nifty Bank itself, there appears there are far more shorts now in the system, particularly if we go by the data in the last few days. So that's the index really to track for today. The FI positioning, though, that I was talking about, 1.6 lakh contracts on the short side. Clients are on the long side at around 1.2 lakh contracts. Moving to, the clients, what did they do in the options data? Well, actually, they wrote more puts than calls. That's giving you some hope that in the near term, if you defend lower levels, maybe in fact they as well are bracing for a bit of a bounce because they're writing puts and they're adding long positions on index futures. The PCR as well, because the kind of aggression we saw on the call writing side for the market on the whole, the PCR is gradually coming back down to around that 0.75 odd. Yesterday it ended at around 0.83. And the 24,600 call, 24,700 call, between them, they added close to around 85 lakh shares. So let's pull up a few levels then. The broad range is around this 500, 550 point range. And the Nifty is pat in the middle between the 20 DMA as well as the 100 DMA. So that's the broad 550 point range that you're looking at. For today's trading session though, the 24,500, that's the reference point on the downside. You don't want that level to get taken out. And going by the options data and going from where the Nifty has been U-turning, that's the resistance mark at around 24,800 odd. But as I mentioned earlier as well, the index that I'll be watching for today's trading session is going to be the Nifty Bank. Well, in the last, if you look at the last 1 month data, it appears that it's more or less in line. But in the last few trading sessions, the Nifty Bank actually has corrected a little bit more than the Nifty. So there are shots in the system. If the markets need to reverse today, the Nifty Bank is the one that will lead the way.
And let's see if the RBI can provide it that trigger. We'll wait and watch, and we should have the answers in just about 2 to 3 hours.